Well, welcome to one and all. We are picking up where we left off last time, and that is Matthew 17, beginning with verse 14. And if you missed the last episode, if you missed Matthew 17, 1 through 13, then I highly recommend that you go back and listen to that. You can hit pause. You can go back and listen to it if you're not listening live, because it's a very important episode. It is the Transfiguration and all of the things that come together with that. And it has, and I'm not just trying to get people to go back and watch another one of my videos, but it's so important because it sets the direction, it sets the tone, it moves things forward with where Jesus is going with the rest of his ministry. Because from the time, and where we are right now is he's just come down off the mountain. He was coming down and the disciples asked him about Elijah and Elijah coming first. And Jesus explains that to them. From this point, moving forward, he's heading to Jerusalem. He is heading to Jerusalem. He's going there. He's going to face what awaits him there. And nothing is going to turn him away from that. And you can tell, and we'll see it in this section here with Jesus and the boy with the demon and casting that demon out, that there is kind of a change in the tone of what Jesus is doing. His emphasis has changed. So let us dig in. And when they came to the crowd, they come down off the mountain, and we ought to do this. I say we're going to dig in, and then I go to other things. I just can't help myself because I'll pull up a map every time I have the chance. So they were up here. This is Mount Hermon. This is where we believe they were. It's the thing that makes the most sense. Listen to the last episode. They've come down. They're going to head down here to Galilee. And remember, Jerusalem, way down here. Okay? So they've come down the mountain, the Mount of Transfiguration. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him, kneeling before him, said, "Have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him." And Jesus answered, "O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me." Okay, we'll stop there and start going through it verse by verse. So we came to the crowd. Who's the crowd? Well, the crowd is the other 9 disciples, because he took 3 up on the mountain with him, Peter, James, and John. So the other 9 are still down below. And apparently, as there often was, there was a crowd there waiting for Jesus. And this man comes up to him, okay? And it's a very powerful scene. You know, it's always important to find ways when you're reading in the Gospels or wherever else, but it certainly applies in the Gospels. Find ways to make this real. Find ways to get yourself to think about it in a way that you hadn't thought about it before. And a good way to do that is put yourself in this man's position. If you're a parent, if you've got young ones that you love, whatever your situation in life, but especially as a parent, imagine that you're going to Jesus and you're talking about your child. "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he has seizures and he suffers terribly." This wasn't just epilepsy. This was demonic forces at work. And we see that very clearly. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water. Satan always has one goal. And we can understand it by when Jesus talks about being the good shepherd, he talks about the thief. And what does the thief do? The thief only comes to kill and destroy. That's all he wants. Satan is always working destruction. And when you see someone upon whom Satan has a firm grasp, you will see destruction. You will see their life coming apart in all kinds of different ways. In this situation, it's all the worse because this is demonic possession. This demon has possessed this child and he's trying to destroy him. I brought him to your disciples and they could not heal him. Why couldn't they heal him? Well, if you go and look, and it's especially with Matthew, Mark, and Luke, you can always go and check and see, like right up here. Do you see that little A? Tiny little A? Right there. I'll hold that over it and it'll say, see Mark 9:14-28 and Luke 9:37-42. Those are the parallel passages where Mark and Luke are talking about the same account, and you can get different details. So sometimes when you're reading in Matthew, you go, wait a minute, I thought that he said this kind can only come out through prayer. Well, he does. He just says it somewhere else. Or my favorite prayer in all the Bible, that this father in anguish over what's happening to his son, in the gospel, I believe it's Mark, when he says, if you can help him, I'd really appreciate it, basically. Here, we'll go look at it. I don't want to butcher it. Okay. Ooh, is it? Here it is. And Jesus, the man said to him, but if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. And Jesus said to him, if you can, all things are possible for the one who believes. And this verse right here is my favorite prayer in the Bible. Immediately, the father of the child cried out and said, I believe, help my unbelief. How often do we feel like that? I believe, help my unbelief. I'm both. I've got my own weakness and I've got my faith. Help my faith. Give me strength. Give me strength so that the man of faith can push aside the man of doubt and just hold fast to you. But it also says that this kind only comes out through prayer. So that gets us going a little bit on demons. There is a hierarchy with everything. I don't care if you go to the local grocery store. There's a hierarchy. There's somebody whose picture's up above the door, and then there are their assistant managers, and then there's the head cashier and the guy who's in charge of the stockroom, and then there's everybody else. There is always a hierarchy. Well, apparently, what we see here in the other gospel accounts leads us to conclude that there is also a hierarchy, even among demons. Now, again, their worldview, the worldview that is set forth in First Enoch, which is not a book of the Bible, but it has a lot of important information. It's quoted in the Bible by Jude and referenced by Peter and others, not quite as obviously, in other places. They believed, and they're closer to the source than we are. They believe that demons, these things that would come and possess people, were the spiritual entities that were left after the giants were killed. Because what were the giants? They were hybrids, the Nephilim, right? The Gibborim, the mighty men of old, they were hybrids between divine, spiritual beings and humans. So when they died, there was this weird class of spiritual entity. They're disembodied spirits. That's what demons are. And that's different than Satan and the ones who are called the Watchers, the fallen ones. They're much higher up in the spiritual realm than these demons. These demons are kind of the sniveling little minions. I'm not saying they're not powerful, because obviously they are. And look at what happens here, but they're different. It's not as though, the point being, it is not as though all these evil spiritual entities are of one class or have the same origin. It's not the case. So he falls into the fire often and into water, trying to destroy him, trying to cause misery and suffering. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. Jesus, you will recall right here in Matthew, when Jesus sent them out, the 72, the 12, and then the others with them, he gave them power over demons, right? But this one, the 9 who were there, weren't able to heal him. And what's Jesus' response? "O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you?" Does that not sound like a Jesus who is heading down to Jerusalem, actually up to Jerusalem? Important geographical perspective that they had on things, and we'll talk about this. So, in their view of geography, where did it go? Come on. Come on. Didn't go where I wanted it to. In their view of geography, everything went up to Jerusalem. Now, the way we talk about things, where's up? If you're giving directions, up is where? It's north. Up is north. Not here. Not in this part of the world. Not to Jews. Up was going up to Jerusalem. Jerusalem was on a mountain, Mount Zion. Everything went up to Jerusalem. So in our thinking, he's heading south, so he's going down, but no, they're heading up to Jerusalem. But this reaction to the disciples' failure to do this, his impatience with them, sounds like it's coming from someone who knows that their time here with these disciples, the amount of training time they have with them, is coming to an end sooner than later. And thus far, they're not up to the drill. Oh, faithless and twisted generation. And that doesn't sound like when they were on the boat and he said to them, "Oh, you of little faith." Listen to the two. "Oh, you of little faith," and "Oh, faithless and twisted generation." Twisted, that's the word for perverted, messed up, turned inside out, just nothing positive here. This is a pretty harsh condemnation to their lack of faith that would enable them to do this. How long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? That sounds of impatience. That's what we pick up here. Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. Now, very important. Don't miss this stuff. And I'll put it this way. To me, Satan is scary. To me, these demons like this, that's scary. That's really frightening, right? The one demon was breaking chains and cutting the guy with stones. That's appalling to think about. To me, it's scary. It's overwhelming. It's not scary to Jesus. It's almost like a side point. And in one of the other two accounts, it says there was a crowd rushing to see this. And so Jesus right away said, "Deaf and mute spirit, come out of him." He didn't want to give Satan any airtime. Use that when you think about what you're going to watch in movies and what you're going to pay for. Jesus wasn't giving Satan any airtime. Not there for that crowd. And he just cast him out. He didn't have to try. It took no effort. always remember that which is scary and overwhelming to you is not scary to him. We have a Lord, we have a constant companion, we have the good shepherd who isn't afraid of anything because he has power over everything. You know, the forces of evil are marching. They're emboldened and they're howling and coming after humanity, and they're coming after us, whatever. And they will have their way to a large extent. They will. Just deal with it. Deal with it. And it's okay. Whatever happens, whatever goes down, the fact of the matter is, Jesus still wins. Jesus is winning. It just doesn't look like Jesus is winning. Whatever it is that this world is going to do with me, I need to be okay with. And if I have serious doubts about whether I can be okay with that, then I better bone up. I better study. I better get in the Word and be praying to God for the assurance and the strength and the comfort and the faith that I need. But in the end, these forces that here in this world, here on this playground, they've got power over me. They can do stuff to me. They can take my stuff away. They can lock me up. They can shut me up. They can close down this whole channel. I just, before I came on here, was reading about someone who many of you may know, Dr. Mercola. The whole force of the technocracy has gone after Dr. Mercola. He's been very outspoken about the COVID-19 stuff and the Great Reset and the lockdowns and the vaccines. And if you didn't know Mercola was being very active about that, many of you will know him just because of the very reliable health information and medical information that he would put out there on a regular basis. They have come after him so hard that he's not shutting down his website, but from now on, he's only putting stuff up for 48 hours and then it'll come down. You can take it and you can put it wherever you want. He's not going to copyright it anymore, but the whole technocracy came after him, and he figures this is the best way to keep things going. I sent that out to some of my followers on a message. They're coming after us, and they can shut us up, and make no doubt, eventually they will. They will shut us up. Dissent, right? It won't be tolerated. What I have to keep in mind, the perspective I have to have is, for the time being, they get to do all this stuff. But Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back. And I encourage you to go read. Let me make sure I got the reference here before I throw this out. I was reading a lot in Revelation today, and I got so many Revelation references in my head because I'm studying it all the time. It's been a while since I did a Revelation video, and I got to get another one out. Anyway, maybe it's the end of 18. When the forces array in battle against wherever it is, I should have looked it up before. At the place called Armageddon, the seventh bowl of wrath is poured out, and there's a proclamation in heaven, it's done. They array their forces. Picture old-fashioned battle with the different legions lined up, thousands and thousands of thousands. This is the picture that's given. They array against God's saints, and then Jesus says it's over. So that's the big surprise about the Battle of Armageddon. There isn't a Battle of Armageddon. He says it's over and it's done. And once he does that, all of these forces, they don't know it, they don't acknowledge it, they live in rebellion to it. All of these forces that are rebelled against us are arrayed against us, are really arrayed against him. They hate you because they hate him. But in the end, he comes back and he owns the playground. And they're going to answer to him. They're going to answer to him. So whatever happens in the meantime, it's okay. I need to be okay with it. Peter was okay with it. John was okay with it. James was okay with it. All of them, except for Judas, were okay with it. We need to be okay with it. Perspective. Work on perspective. You can have all the knowledge in the world and you can spew all kinds of Bible verses and information and references and how this relates to that. And you need to be able to take it and take it inside, inwardly digest it, make it your own so that it shapes the way you think, so that it shapes the way you believe, so that it shapes the way you see the world. I want to see it through his perspective, not mine. Jesus' vision. That's what I want. Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him. And the boy was healed instantly. Done. No big hoo-ha. Yeah, it flopped him down there on the ground, and Jesus brought it to an end. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, why could we not cast it out? He said to them, because of your little faith. Now, in the other, he gives more detail, and he says, this kind only comes out through prayer, but it's because of your little faith. Wow, that's pretty harsh. Well, sometimes I need harsh, because sometimes harsh applies. Sometimes the truth is harsh. But why is he being very blunt and direct with them? Because he wants them to get it. He wants them to get it. For truly, I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, tiny, tiny little thing, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Faith, that's what I want. That's what I want. Knowledge is wonderful. Gifts of whatever abilities, it's all well, good, and fine if it's all about serving in the kingdom. But what I want is faith. Because if I have faith, I'm going to see those different things that are coming at me, to tempt me, to challenge me, to threaten me. I'm going to see them the right way. I'm going to understand them the right way. And then, having done everything else, I'll be able to stand. I'll be able to stand. And that's what I want to do. And it doesn't take much faith. That's what the point of moving a mountain. Now, no one has ever said, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. It's not a literal picture. Jesus isn't giving us, Luke Skywalker, pick up the X-Wing fighter and move it out of the swamp, juju. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. Faith can do great things. Does the world recognize them as great? Do other people see them as great? No. Many of the greatest things that faith does, hardly anyone knows about. Hardly anyone sees. It's in private. It's nothing that the world cares about. Faith does great things. Nothing will be impossible for you. Nothing will be impossible for you. Faith gives power for the things that matter. And we need to identify, very healthy thing, what in your life matters and what doesn't. Look at your life, and not just, I'm not saying look around your house or your apartment or your home or whatever else. Just look at your life. What matters and what doesn't? If you can't list it off very quickly, then do some soul searching. What matters and what doesn't? Really simple. Rule of thumb. If they can take it away, it doesn't matter. If they're the best friends with them. If they can take it away, then it doesn't really matter. Not in the eternal scheme of things. And I only want to care about the eternal scheme of things. If they can take it away, it doesn't matter. So look at your life and prioritize accordingly. Jesus again foretells his death and resurrection. As they were gathering in Galilee, we got a geographical reference, so you know what we got to do. So they're back down here. They were up here, and now they're back down here. This is Galilee. This is Galilee. Capernaum's in Galilee. Nazareth is in Galilee. They're back down here. They've made it down here. And they don't do this like a travelogue. It's not like after walking 22 miles over 3 days, they were back down in Galilee. No, you got to look for these things and catch it. As they were gathering in Galilee. Let's talk about that. Gathering. As they were gathering, it sounds like they're kind of packing up to go, right? They're gathering, they're coming together. Just kind of interesting. As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the third day." Now, he just said this to them back in chapter 16. And that's when Peter took him aside and started to straighten him out, right? That's that whole episode. He tells them the same thing again. Why? Because it's important, obviously. Why? Because he knows they're going to have a hard time getting it. And frankly, and the record shows, they're not going to get it. They didn't understand it fully until the day of Pentecost, which is 50 days after he rose from the dead. They didn't really understand it when they were in the upper room and he appeared to them. They knew he was there. They were impressed. They were amazed. They were astonished, but they didn't get it. They didn't get it. When did they get it? They got it when the Holy Spirit was poured out upon them. That is when they got it. Before that, they were confused. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't keep telling them. He's going to keep telling them. He's going to keep explaining, so they will eventually understand. And because he said it so many times, then later it's like, oh yeah, he said that this was going to happen. But this time, rather than telling him he's wrong, taking him aside to correct him, and they were greatly distressed. They were greatly distressed. You know what that's called? It's called progress. It really is progress. They've gone from Peter telling him he's wrong and correcting him like a wayward child to now they've just moved on to being distressed, and they should be distressed. It's distressing. Jesus is going to get very distressed about it. We see that in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? It's a distressing thing. So they are making progress, but this journey to Jerusalem is going to define everything else throughout the Gospel of Matthew. I want to thank you for listening. I want to encourage you. Give us a thumbs up. It really does make a difference. I also invite you to subscribe. And if you subscribe, then make sure and hit the notification bell so that you are made aware when we put out new content. Please share this video with others. Share it on your social media platform. Send it to anyone you think might benefit from this teaching. And finally, come and pay us a visit. This is our website, decodingthedeception.com. If you know our name, you know the website. We've got all our Bible teaching videos out here, as well as a host of other resources to help you be informed so that you can decode the deception. This is Matthias 76. Together, we are decoding the deception. God bless and have a great day.